Hey all, it is I, Anthony the Canadian Guy, and welcome to Wrestlesode. Today we are speaking with Uncle Daddy Tony Baroni. This was my very first interview ever breaking into the BC scene, and man was it so amazing. It started off literally as one of my very favorite ever interviews because he shows us his action figure collection that he collected throughout his entire life, and it is absolutely amazing. And so that's a big treat for all of you. The conversations were great. We heard some amazing stories. Now, not only is he a wrestler out there in the Vancouver scene, he's also a trainer at the Lions Gate Dojo. He's done quite a lot up there, so this was legitimately one of my favorite interviews that I've got the chance to do to this date. And like I said, it was my first time breaking into the BC scene, so that was a lot of fun. Today, if you are watching this on Tuesday, August 16th, 2022, tonight over on Twitch, we're going to be doing our second ever interview into the BC scene. That's right, today's like BC Day. Today, we will be interviewing the Haida heartthrob, Adam Ryder, and I can't wait for that as well. I'm actually going to be able to experience both my first ever Tony Baroni and Adam Ryder show live this Saturday, as I will be going to Vancouver and watching NEW's Baseball show, and I'm so excited for that. It's going to be such a great day. But anyway, so if you are here on Tuesday, come tune in tonight, ask questions. It's always a lot of fun. As you can see, these conversations are great. But anyways, that's it for right now. Let's go straight into our interview with Uncle Daddy Tony Baroni. Tony, buddy, how are you doing today?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. I just want to start off by saying that this is one of the coolest backgrounds that I've ever seen behind somebody during one of my interviews today. I am immediately nerding out. And of course, the first thing I see, of course, like the proton pack to your left. And of course, the boundless, endless collection of miniatures that you have here. So, wow, cool.
This isn't even all of it. This is just one wall. This is a smidge. Actually, I just moved this year. This, what's displayed in this whole room is actually only like 3/4 of what I actually have.
Oh, geez.
But we moved, so I had to downsize a bit. But yeah, there's some stuff in there.
I'll say so. I'm just like taking a look. You've got, it seems like a nice assortment, not just wrestling, but a little bit of everything. I do see Skeletor behind you.
You want a virtual tour? We can give you a little
I
tour.
would love a little virtual tour. What a better way to start off this interview.
Okay, well, let's just, hopefully I can do this without screwing it up too bad. So, this is the first shelf. So, we got, let's see if I can see, you got Power Rangers at the top, one of the vintage Megazords, and then some of the newer figures. And then down here, I got my Elites. So, the top shelf is what I refer to as the WWF, which is like Golden Era and New Generation. And then below that's like the Indie Darling guys.
Right, okay, I like it.
Over here, we have what I refer to as WWE, so it's like Attitude and Ruthless Aggression.
Okay.
And then, of course, my favorite, WCW, right? You got to have WCW. Vader's been champ for a long time.
Nice. He's even got the big mask on, too. That's amazing.
Yeah, I spent too much on that on eBay, for sure. And then I got the new He-Man that have come out in the last, all this is pandemic collecting.
Wow.
All these He-Man, yeah. Then Star Wars is over here. Can you see the Star Wars?
We can.
Okay, good. And then some vintage Spawn is down here. And then some vintage Ninja Turtles down here.
Holy man.
And then the Ghostbusters is over here. I had to reduce this shelf. I actually had the Ghostbusters 2 Ectomobile as well. And then down here's the Star Trek. And then go over to the Proton Pack. This was another pandemic project. It was originally a Spirit Halloween one. But I gutted it up and changed a bunch of stuff, gutted it, put it on the Alice Pack frame and all that. And then we go over here, I got Dragon Ball. Can you see the Dragon Ball? And DC stuff, assorted, and the Batman, got Metal Gear Solid. One of my favorite toy lines at the bottom here is actually Aliens and Predator from Kenner in the 90s. Why you would make toys for rated R movies, I'll never know, but, you know.
Why not, right? I mean, you got that suit. That suit's so awesome.
And then we got that. This is all Transformers going down here. And then my video game setup with various systems and things. Then we go to the NECA toy shelf where we got RoboCop and Terminator. I don't know if you can see that. And then more Aliens, the NECA version, and more Predator, NECA style. All the horror guys, and then 80s action. And then over here is all the Hasbros. So, you know, these are all my champions up here. Can you see the Hasbros?
We can see everything perfectly, dude. This is amazing.
More Hasbros. And then this one's a tight corner, but I got the WCW glutes and the Japanese Chara Pro figures down here. And then we go over here and we have the more Marvel. This is all X-Men. And then we got Phil Spiderman down here. And the Avengers. And then Avengers villains. And then like vintage wrestling magazines and Ghost Trap. And then, of course, local Vancouver wrestling lady's choice, and a portrait of him that our female wrestler Sloan did for me. Well, she made a bunch, but that's a quick tour of my nerdery. And we're good, and we're back.
I will say, I don't think I've had a better first 5 minutes of an interview. That was amazing. I loved every little thing that you had there. That was so incredible. And it was very well detailed, too. Like, well, you don't just have one or two. Like, you've got collections.
And there's other stuff that's in boxes that I don't have out because it just limited space. The old place was larger. We lived with my sister-in-law and her fiance, so we had, like, really get a big house, but it's okay. It's just me and my wife and a nice little ranch. It's nice and good for us, but I had to reduce some space, unfortunately. Which is probably good.
I understand. Kind of sad for you as well, just because you're just like, I could only imagine what it was like with the whole setup and everything out at the same time. But even just this is friggin' incredible just to look at.
This setup is actually better. I'm in here more than I was in the old place, just like the way it just like laid it out and the way it have. My wife actually helped me do this one, so it's a little more sophisticated as opposed to my last one, which is very much teenage boys' room. So it wasn't quite as laid out as nice. And now this is more of a sophisticated look.
Of course. It's like you can sit there and you can stare at your action figures while drinking your nice single malt scotch. You know what I mean? You're like, I can enjoy this as an adult.
Absolutely.
Man, well, thank you so much for joining me here today. This is my very first interview into the BC scene. I do have a lot of love for BC as I went to college there at Vancouver Film School, and I was living there for 5 years. So I have a little bit of a soft spot for the BC scene, but at the same time, I don't actually know much about the BC scene because I wasn't watching independent wrestling when I was living there at the time. So I did a lot of different research. And honestly, when I looked at literally everybody there and somebody who I really wanted to speak with and start off my BC interviews with, I couldn't think of a better person than Tony Baroni. So many people, not just here in BC, or not just in BC, but in Alberta, Western Canada, have so many great things to say about you. The amount of love that I have seen come flowing through Twitter and stuff since we announced this interview has been absolutely insane. And I have to say, man, thank you for joining me here today. Like, this is honestly an honor. I mean, you are, as it comes in the BC scene, man, you're a vet. Holy shit. Like, I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I am now. I hate that term because, I don't know. It's I've been doing this for a bit, for sure. But, you know, we're all on the same level for the most part. Everyone's on the indies trying to, you know, make their art and do what they love. And, yeah.
Well, I won't use that word then. I'll just start referring to you as coach because apparently some people seem to be doing that. They call you coach. Now, how did it all start for you? Like, Tony, obviously, like, you grew up. Did you love wrestling? How did you fall in love with the sport to begin with?
So I've told this tale on a couple of podcasts, so I'll keep it a little tighter. But it happened in 1990. A new kid moved to town. I was in a grade 2-3 split class. I don't know if they have that in Eastern Canada or where are you?
I'm in Calgary. I'm in Calgary.
Okay. I don't know if they have that. You know what? It is Eastern.
Yeah, it's all East compared to Vancouver. So.
But anyway, so new kid moves to town. We become buddies. Go over for a sleepover. And he's like, "Oh, are you into wrestling?" And like at the time, I was aware of wrestling. My first memory of wrestling is King Kong Bundy doing the 5 count and me not getting like 1 and 5, but 3 was to win. I just didn't get that. But it's like, okay, well, the Royal Rumble just happened, and I have a tape because back in the 80s and 90s, you get 2 VCRs, and anytime you get a wrestling pay-per-view, you make that copy, right? So you got a copy that you want to watch. I'm like, okay. So he pops in Royal Rumble 90, and I'm like, whoa, like this is awesome. And then the next sleepover, WrestleMania 6 had come out because so they set it up at Royal Rumble 90, Hogan Warrior, right?
Right.
Okay, clash in the ring, and then Hogan does the heel thing but gets cheered as he always did and eliminates Warrior. And then WrestleMania 6 happened, and like Demolition beats the Colossal Connection for the tag belts, and Earthquake messes up Hercules, and then Warrior beats Hogan. I'm in. Now, after this, every weekend with me and this buddy, who's my best friend from grade 4 all the way to like grade 9 until I moved back to Ontario, every weekend was renting old wrestling tapes and watching them, and we would draw we'd draw our own wrestling federations. We just draw wrestlers, watch wrestling all day, draw pay-per-views, and play with wrestling figures. That's what we did for the majority of our friendship.
Do you still have any memories of the creator wrestlers you put down on paper back when you were a kid?
I do, and I hope Justin is watching this. Yes, there was Harvey Nerdling. There was Edgar Emu. There was the Dark Sider.
Ooh.
There was the Canadian strongman Leaf Maples.
Leaf Maples. Oh my gosh.
It's spelled Leif, right?
Like Leif Garrett kind of thing.
Exactly. I remember this guy named Butch Moon, and he had a t-shirt that just said truck on it for some reason. We thought it was funny. That's kind of all I got left. That was a long time ago. So.
Oh, but man, you've still got a whole bunch of those. If you could go back, like you could put one into a federation these days, who do you think would stand the test of time?
Oh, Leaf Maples.
Leaf Maples? Oh, absolutely. With a name like that, absolutely, right? Yeah. He would just stand the test of time.
He had a top hat that had the Canadian flag on it and a big Canadian singlet. Yeah, it's good.
So that at that moment, like you watch the Royal Rumble, you're just like, all bets are off now. It's my life is just going to be some wrestling for like the next like. Did you have a break in wrestling, or have you just been watching consistently since that time?
Watching it, yes. So I took a break. I took a break watching mainstream wrestling in the late '90s, probably early 2000s. Like once WCW closed, because I was a big WCW guy. That was my number one. Like I watched WWE, of course. I watched any wrestling I can get my hands on in the '90s. You know, the black box, every pay-per-view you possibly can, you watch it. I mean, every teenager in the '90s had one of those, or at least wrestling fans.
Oh yeah.
And once like the ruthless aggression era ended, and that's when they were doing like pretty much trying to train bodybuilders to do it. I was like, I'm done with the Fed for a while, and I would watch indie wrestling, but I was backyarding pretty heavily at that point, anyhow.
Yeah.
So I was watching a lot of like backyard wrestling, and and back then we were like super into like PWG when it first came out, Ring of Honor. So we would like, as yards, we try to emulate that style a lot more. So I guess not really a break ever.
It's always been in some form in your life then, right?
Yeah, wrestling's been a part of my life since 1990.
So did you like turn? I guess it's a little bit different, like different ages and stuff. I don't know what the training age in BC is like, but as soon as you became of legal age, where you're like, okay, that's it, I'm training in wrestling.
No. So the BC scene was really hit and miss back then, and at the time we were yarders, we actually thought we were better than the indies that were going on in Vancouver. Whether we were or not, that's I mean, there's a lot of stuff that looked bad. I'm like, wow, that was terrible, but I thought we were doing some cool stuff. It's probably 50-50. But like there's a lot of like hardcore was still, there's a lot of jeans at the time. So I'm like, I'm just gonna keep yarding. And then what happened was, there was a huge backyard show. And when I say backyard, like we were renting a ring from one of the local promotions and doing our backyard stuff there. They just wanted to make quick bucks, sign some waivers, let these kids land on their heads all they want.
Right.
And that's fine by me. I was doing it in the field in high school anyway. What's the difference? And there's a big backyard show. Our backyards everywhere came out. Like I'm talking everywhere, all over like North America. These guys from Europe flew in. There's the message board. It was the message board era, right? So
right.
Big message board where all the different yard promotions would upload their stuff. So there's a backyard fest that happened in BC, and I was on it, and that was my first taste of like a real crowd. Like there was at least like, I say real crowd. That was like my first taste of wrestling, like 45 people instead of like just the roster of your backyard promotion. And it's a lot easier to pop more people than it is less. So like when it's like, it's just you and your yard buddies, no one pops unless you like dome yourself or gnarly, right? So you get like, I got more of a taste of like the rush from the crowd of just like, not just doing moves, but like walking and talking and working shtick. And then I was like, okay, that's what I need that. I need more of the crowd. So I was like, okay, I'll go train with ECCW. But when I got there, the training staff completely changed. I would train there for 2 months under one coach, and then it switched, and then it was Artemis Spencer, Kenny Lush, and Nelson Creed, and then it was awesome. And then training just went sky high, and then it was I had some really good coaches that I wasn't expecting to get when I signed up, so it was pretty sick.
Those are some great names. Like a name like Artemis Spencer, for instance, is just like one of those names. It's like, oh, who's your coach? Artemis Spencer. That's a perfect name to have as a coach. You know what I mean? No, it's pretty good, especially on the Vancouver scene. So what year was this approximately?
2007.
2007. So you start training with ECCW. How long was it until you had your first like official show? Like I say that in air quotes.
I want to say, so I had like a lot of years backyarding, so I had matches. So I don't want to say got through the training quicker than some, but like I didn't bump properly, but I wasn't afraid to. And when you're training people, quite often the first few months is like not being afraid to fall. And I was way past that. So I definitely was able to skip ahead of some of that stuff. So 6 months, 8 months, I looked like garbage. I was 6'1" and 168 pounds, which is a wicked look, right? Sweet string bean.
Right.
Doing a terrible comedy MMA gimmick that lasted 4 months. Yeah. But actually, so my first show, this is a pretty crazy story, actually. I got hired to do ring crew for an NWA revival show.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was in like, where the hell was it? Penticton, BC.
Okay.
Which is like small town, right?
Right north of the Okanagan. I know exactly where that is.
Yeah, they were running the new ice rink in there. It held like 6,000 or 7,000 people. And Kevin Nash was on the show, and Lance Cade was on the show, and Trevor Murdoch was on the show. And two guys no-showed, and the guys, and Kenny and Bomber and Artie always said, bring your gear every time. So me and a guy wrestling as Manther at the time, we brought our gear. And guys no-showed, so we ended up opening the show with Kevin Nash on it for like our first actual like paid show, and for like 5,000 people, and I haven't come close to that many people in the audience since.
Well, that's a great way to start, though, hey?
1,000 people.
Man, that's a really cool. Did you have a chance to like learn anything from Kevin Nash? Did you get to talk to him, or was it one of those like, no, I just started here, I don't even bother going close to the guy?
I got to talk to him, but I was also like fresh in the business, so I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything beyond my smile ringing in my ears. So, right, like, who's huge, by the way, massive man.
Yeah,
but very nice. Like we got to the back, and he's like, "Oh, you leave anything out there for us, kid?" And I nowadays I'd be like, "No, I kicked him in the gut and powerball him at the beginning," but at the time, I was just like, "Oh, Kevin Nash talking to me."
Have you had other great experiences with other big names like that in some of the shows that you've done throughout the years?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to think like.
I always put people on the spot and make it hard for people.
It is. I also hate name dropping. I feel gross. But like Matt Riddle was in Vancouver right before he made the event. That guy is awesome.
Yeah.
Coolest guy. Probably the coolest guy. One of the coolest like names I've ever got to hang out with. Besides like the guys who I know who came from Vancouver, right. You know what I mean? Like Phantasmo and fucking like Kyle, like those guys are rad too, of course. But like, yeah, Riddle's definitely up there for one of my favorites.
Riddle seems like he'd fit in perfectly with like a BC crowd. You know what I mean? Like he's like a Canadian BC boy.
Artemis got to work with him, and they had a banger of a match, which was sweet.
Dude, Artemis only has bangers. It feels like I don't think I've ever seen like a bad Artemis match.
Most of my best matches are with him as well.
Well, he brings a lot of people to some amazing matches, I would say. But I mean, obviously, working with someone like Riddle, that's a huge name. Obviously, coming into the BC.
I didn't get to work with them.
We're working alongside, but like on the same shows.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you're actually doing a bunch of different stuff. You're wrestling both for like NEW and WrestleCore. You're a coach for the Lions Gate Dojo. How did you kind of go from like, hey, okay, I'm on my first show, I'm just kind of learning the ropes, to being like legitimately one of the best trainers in BC by the sounds of it?
Whoa.
I'm just saying, no, this is not my words. I am repeating what I have heard.
That's very kind, but I'm definitely the worst of the four coaches.
The best of the worst. How's that sound?
I am the best of the worst. That's a fact. You can't deny that one. No, so I never stopped training, right? Like once I started like I became good friends with Artie, and we train all the time. We just, I'm at the wrestling school once a week, every week since I started wrestling. Started training wrestling like professionally and properly. Right. So I was always just there, and then it got to a point where I think Artie was hurt, and a few other coaches left, so they were just down to one at the time. And it was during Fergie and Nick Pesky's class when they were training, and they're like, can you run some classes, Tony? Like, you're here, you know the drills. And I was like, well, I'm not good enough to be a coach, guys, but I know the drills I enjoy doing. I know and I can lead a workout. So I started just like substituting classes for them just to help out, and then I just never stopped.
And what year was that approximately?
Somewhere in the mid 20 teens.
The mid-aughts or the mid-teens?
Yeah, 20. Oh, shit. Sorry, Ferg, I should know. Even wrestling. I guess like 6-7 years ago. I don't know now. And so it's a blur after 15 years of doing this.
There's just student after student after student, just another bump, right?
No, that's there's like Ferg's a good friend of mine. Like there's the students that like stick. Well, I mean, there's students that stick around. They become part of the squad, and then there's the guys that train for a bit and leave, and
Well, it's still really cool to have. I mean, like, you've been coaching now, obviously, for quite a while. Now, being in wrestling, there's so many different aspects that people enjoy, right? Some people like the reaction of the crowd. Some people like the storytelling. Some people like the physical aspects. Some people like coaching. What would you say your favorite aspect, now that you've, done so much in wrestling, has been what do you boil it down to? Like, that's what I live for now.
That's tough. I get in moods. Sometimes I feel like I just want to be that 80s heel who just like struts and stuff. And other times I want to take bumps on the floor and fall off ladders. And other times I want to do tag team stuff. Like I think what I love is the variety of expressing myself in my artistic medium, if you will. Like I love doing comedy stuff with Ravenous Randy one night. And then the next night, before he turned heel, me and Fergie are beating the shit out of each other, doing hoss fights. And then, maybe a few months later, I'm having a garbage match where we're doing stop signs and going through tables. Like, I love mixing it up and being creative, and like other times I'll wrestle. I've worked Ladies' Choice where we did like 10 minutes of just like character work, and it's a blast and the crowd loves it. So, I mean, as long as I'm having fun and the crowd's being entertained and I'm keeping it a variety fresh, then I'm pretty stoked.
I think that's a really great answer. Wrestling is such a fun little artistic form because there's so many things that you can do, right? Like, you're not just limited to one style of wrestling or to only doing promos or heck, just to even wrestling. You can do literally anything you want in wrestling, and as long as you believe it and you own it 100%, people get behind you. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll boo the shit out of you, right? But at the end of the day, you're garnering a reaction, and that's all that really matters, right?
Yeah. To a point. Well, I mean, there's a certain kind of boo you don't want.
Yeah, fair.
Bad heat. But no, exactly. If you get them reacting the way you want when you want them to, like that's magical. And yeah, like I don't know, you're right. Like pro wrestling is a art medium that can do so many different things that most art forms can't do. Like dance is like there's a few different kinds of dance, but they're still dancing. Where we can go from telling jokes to scaring the shit out of everybody to going to a gore fest to like you can float on, and all of a sudden you're a superhero movie, and then you're a horror movie, and then you're a mosh pit. Like you can go everywhere with it, which is pretty awesome.
Do you have like a favorite? Like, do you find being a heel to be more fun, or do you actually prefer getting the cheers from the crowds at the end of the day?
They're both pretty awesome. I'm not babyface that much,
right?
But I was for like 6 years. I don't like to flip flop. So if I were to turn face again at some point, it would probably be for another long haul. Like I was heel for 2 years, and like that's not. I don't like. I work face every once in a while, depending on like where I am or what the match is or whatever. I'll still do Uncle Daddy, but I'll just, instead of doing it at the crowd, I do it at the heel and then do a shine, right? But I feel like my longer run as a baby face made me understand how to be a better heel. And now I've been a heel for so long, I think it's also like, now you know what the crowd wants for a baby face. So again, like I'll always want to flip it every 6-7 years.
It's a fun little change, right? Like you said, you can tell so many different stories, and it keeps everything kind of fresh, right?
Yeah, and you got to evolve. Like, you can't do the same thing for 20 some odd years, right? Like, I started off as, like I said, a comedy MMA gimmick where I would tell the referee to get in my guard, and then I went to like a young cocky heel with Jamie Diaz and Nick Price, and then I went babyface for 6-7 years, and I was the blue collar brawler. And then I turned heel on Artie, and then I was doing the Great Bambino thing until I kind of landed on Uncle Daddy, which is what I've been doing for the last 5 years. I don't know.
Well, that's actually a great question when you're talking about evolution. How did you come up with something like Uncle Daddy? Like, that's what a name for the record. Like, that's
Uncle
a great
Daddy
name.
Happened 100% by accident. So I was wrestling Cat Power. I was the women's champion at the time. Very important that I was the women's champion.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a hair versus hair match. And I did the Apollo Creed thing where I had a bunch of nicknames, but mine were all like ridiculous, like the Velvet Dragon and the Huge Midgets. And one night me and Pesky were having drinks, and he called me Uncle Daddy. I'm like, ooh, that's good for that little list of Apollo Creed nicknames, right? And Sweater Vest is announcing all these nicknames, and he says Uncle Daddy, and you can hear the whole crowd go, and they just start chanting Uncle Daddy, bananas in the Commodore. I'm like, well, I guess I'm Uncle Daddy now. And just cruise it. Like, when the fans decide, it's better to just go with it.
Oh, I mean, in a moment like that, how could you be anything other than Uncle Daddy?
Yeah.
Once the crowd starts chanting something like that, there is a person around here that ever since my very first show, he's always worn like kind of long, shiny pants, right? They always look kind of shiny in the light. They always look like they're made of plastic. So since I started in independent wrestling, there's a guy around here named Jordan Aries, whose nickname has been Plastic Pants for as long as I can remember. And people will just chant Plastic Pants over and over again, right? The crowd makes the decision, and then it's over for you. Like,
lean into it, man. Lean into it.
Oh, and he did, and that's great. Right?
Making Plastic Pants shirts to make $1 million, or at least dozens of dollars.
Right. Well, I mean, now you are living and wrestling out of the Vancouver area. Obviously, the greater Vancouver area is like a massive place and everything like that.
Yeah.
Now, you wrestled first for ECCW. Now you're doing NEW and WrestleCore. I know inside of like BC there is other promotions like Big West Wrestling that's run by like Marty Sugar most of the time, anything like that. But is there a lot of different like tinier promotions that kind of like go around the Vancouver scene that maybe we just haven't been exposed to yet?
Well, so most of like the smaller, like I don't want to say smaller, most of the like I've pretty much worked for almost everyone in BC minus one or two, and a lot of them have popped up in the last decade ish, which is probably why you haven't heard too much, or at least you know of them, but that's it. They all, because when I first broke in the last the late 2000s, there was 2 in BC. There was maybe a couple in Washington, but it was really tough with the athletic commission. They were still like under a boxing license. They were treating like sports, so like wrestlers had to be licensed and blood tests. And then there was a couple in Oregon. So it was either that, because Oregon's about 5 hours away, or in BC you drive to Alberta, which is like 13 hours away.
Yeah.
Right. So we would hit a lot of like the ones in Washington and Oregon because we had to. But in the last decade and some change, places like VIPW, who I worked with for quite a bit when they started up on Vancouver Island. Eddie Osborne had PWA, which is now 365, which is on Vancouver Island, and I believe in Ontario. Big West is up in the interior, so is Thrash. PPW is in Abbotsford for a bit. So more people are popping up, which is great for wrestlers, right? We need more places to work because for like 2 years, maybe 3, me and Bishop would drive to Portland on a Saturday afternoon, wrestle, don't sleep, drive back, get home 5 a.m. Sunday morning, just to get those licks in, just to get those matches in. So it's wicked that there's more. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, absolutely you did, yeah.
I should warn all your viewers that I will ramble, ask my students. I'll just get on a thing and we're gone.
Dude, all I do is ramble, so I totally understand. Trust me. I'm the most incoherent interviewer sometimes with some of my questions. Now, obviously, like you said, like wrestling out to Alberta and stuff, like it's like a 13-hour drive. Especially these days, gas prices are just like no. But for some reason, flight prices as of late have been a lot better. And I noticed that there's been a lot more of a connection between the BC scene and the Alberta scene, NEW and WrestleCore bringing in people like Michael Richard Blaze or Heavy Metal or the Clandestine Society and all these different people coming over there, which has been great for the exposure, not only from like the Alberta side, because we're getting to learn a lot more about the BC side of things, right? But at the same time, we're also getting to show some of our Alberta talents out there in BC. Now, obviously, like it just seems like it's been a bit more of a recent thing, obviously, with the flights and everything coming back in. But have you had a chance to like take a look at some of the Alberta talents? Is there anybody in specific you've been like, okay, one of these days I'm getting that person?
Like who do I want to wrestle?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to call out some of our guys for you.
Well, so I know MRB and Heavy Metal from when I broke in, because MRB used to come to Vancouver when he was pretty green, and I used to do Alberta when I was green. I'd met Heavy Metal at OSCW, so I do know a couple of those guys already.
Right.
So I'd love just to have we haven't, it's cool seeing them, and after like 10 years, like, okay, it'd be cool to work them again, or not again, but work them, because I never got to back then.
Right. And MRB and Heavy Metal are like two of the most synonymous names when it comes to the Alberta scene these days.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Great choices.
Yeah. Who else? I'd like to work Stephen Crow in a one-on-one. We just worked at Wrestlesode recently. I think we could have, since we both have such loud characters, I'd love to tussle it up with him. I think it'd be fun. He's heel in Alberta, right?
Depends where you go, I think. Really, I think it depends.
I work babyface, even though I'm not when I wrestle for. Well, it doesn't matter. But I'd love to, either or, flip it. That'd be fun.
I think that's just two amazing personalities. That would be so fun to watch, Uncle Daddy versus the Rhinestone Cowboy. I'm not gonna lie, that would just be so much entertaining. Right? Oh yeah.
And then I do enjoy intergender from time to time, and me and Taryn from accounting worked last summer, but I was like fresh out of the pandemic, so my gas tank wasn't where I would like it to be. So I'd love to have another. Actually, we had 2 matches in one day, and we actually heard I had a gender reveal match for Cobra Kai's baby, which is a lot of fun. But I'd like to have like a bit of a banger with her, because she's quite good. I think who else? I don't know. I've a lot of concussions.
There's a lot. I completely understand. So that's pretty amazing. All right, now I do want to keep us on schedule a little bit tonight. We have
Kyle Sebastian. I haven't worked him in 10 years.
Kyle Sebastian. Oh man, that would be amazing. One of the best talents out there in Lethbridge. Unfortunately, we don't get to see him come up north very often. But man, wrestling down there for PPW in Lethbridge, Kyle Sebastian, one of the best. Him and Sydney Steele and the Cowboy Bryn Watts. Man, I love the Lethbridge scene just as much as anything else, man.
I think the last time him and I worked was for Big West, and this would have been in like 2010.
There you go.
Or something, like a while ago.
So we got it. Big West, Marty, if you're listening to this, we got to get Tony versus Kyle. We'll do it in the interior, right in the middle there. What do you say?
If we meet halfway, that's true.
Yeah, I think that'd be perfect for that. All right, so we're going to move into the Q&A section of today because, like I said, we want to keep on schedule, and I could literally ask questions forever. One question I do want to ask before we get past it, though, of all the wrestling figures that you have, what is your, like, if there was a fire, which one are you grabbing?
Ooh, that is tough. Well, there's 2 ways I can go, but I can either be a total mark for myself and save the custom action figure I made of myself.
Okay, where is this action figure? Oh my gosh, we didn't see this.
He's tucked away in WCW. I'm in the jobber shelf because I hate people that put themselves over too much. However, this is going to cause a disaster. Oh, no. So I made this guy a few years back when I was doing the rope thing.
That's amazing.
So probably him. I'm very much a hobbyist, and I get really into something for a few years, and I move on. So I was doing custom action figures for a couple of years, then painting, and I get into all sorts of strange things.
Dude, that was a crazy good action figure. That is better than what you see some people actually get like on the shelves sometimes.
It's not. Once the sunglasses come off, it looks terrible. Because it's one of the Highlanders who's making this pretty face. But with the sunglasses on, it looks pretty good.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, well, let's take a look here. We got some questions. Okay, here's one. You have a figure collection is incredible, but if you only had one collection that you could keep, So, and you're breaking it up over the shelf. So you've got your classic, your vintage cartoon classic era of the WWE. You've got your new era, as well as your Ruthless Aggression and your PG era. Like, what are you keeping?
Like out of the elites or like the whole collection?
Whole collection. I know which one I would keep of your collection, but that's just because I'm a personal mark. But this is your question.
I think I would have to keep the WWF Hasbros because that's what I loved as a kid. Like that's what I played with as a kid. While me and my friend Justin would draw wrestlers and watch wrestling all through like 90, 91, 92, 93, 94. So yeah, probably the Hasbros.
That's an amazing one. Personally, for me, I would be choosing your Ghostbusters behind you.
Yeah,
but there's
the Proton Pack doesn't count, right? Because maybe it's probably the Proton Pack. I'm really proud of that. And a lot of hours of working to that guy.
I mean, I would consider that part of the Ghostbusters figs, to be completely honest. But that's, you know what I mean? I'm making it harder for you.
That's way harder. Yeah, I'd still probably say the Hasbros because I traded all my original ones for Star Wars Power of the Force figures in the 90s. So I've spent a lot of money, a lot of time getting the toys back that used to be mine as a kid. So I've bought every single one of those Hasbros at least twice in my life.
That is, and it's not a cheap little hobby to do, right? I mean, like, it's not quite up there with, like, Warhammer collecting in terms of figures, but it's still pretty penny at the end of the day. And these are way cooler looking, in my opinion, right?
I've spent embarrassing amounts of money on certain figures, but I'm also quite thrifty. So I've gotten some beautiful scores from the vintage store and from the secondhand store. So
I understand. Hold on, where is it? Oh, sorry. This one right here, I don't know if you can actually see, but it's my Ghostbusters Diamond Select Louis Tully action figure.
Oh, nice.
Now, I am trying to collect this figure set because once you collect everything, it creates the rooftop scene where, like...
Yeah, the scene. Yeah.
So I'm super excited for that, but I got this for $2 at a garage sale because somebody didn't know what they had, and I just, marked the shit out. I was like, I'm buying that! So there's a new collection for me.
Yeah. Oh, I love those scores when you know right away what they have, and then you know that they don't know what they have. It's magical.
I miss those days of garage sailing and just like finding a Super Nintendo for $20 and you just start laughing to yourself. You're like, I'm gonna get that.
If you have a working Super Nintendo now, those things are worth a good chunk.
I actually have a retro video game collection, so I have 2 Super Nintendos, I have 3 Nintendo 64s. It's all over there. One of these days I'll have to do like an actual like reveal of my own little nerd shelf, but that's on like the dirty part of my office.
I have a little tip for your N64 if you're interested in
sure.
that sort of. Do you know how to modify a Japanese N64 cartridge to play on your North American N64 with very little trouble?
I mean, other than the adapter, I don't know any small specific little tricks.
Fuck that adapter, man. You can just cut off the corners and it plops right in.
Oh, really? So you just cut off the actual corners of the cartridge?
Hold on, no, it's over here. My N64 collection. So, here we go. Nintendo's been notoriously lazy for their like PAL region stuff.
Right.
So in the North American N64, this just turned into a huge nerd conversation. Right?
I love this. This is great.
So they were super lazy with N64, so they used little posts in the pocket where the cartridges go.
Yeah.
So North Americans, the cutout is right there.
Right.
Well, the Japanese cartridge, the cutout is in the middle. So you just cut off the corners and you can play Virtual Pro 64 in North America, no problem.
That's amazing. I love those tiny little tricks. I have one for a Super Nintendo as well. Now, you can't play a Super Famicom game on a Super Nintendo, but if you have a Super Famicom controller and attach that to a Super Nintendo, you can play with it.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, if you're a No Mercy fan, scoop up a copy of Virtual Pro. Just get the first one because it's way cheaper, and the menu screen is exactly like WCW versus NWO World Tour, so it's very easy to navigate. 2 is better because it plays like No Mercy, but it's like $80 more, and it's a little harder to thumb through because it's got the same engine as WrestleMania 2000.
So what would you say your favorite wrestling video game then is? It sounds like you're a No Mercy guy.
No Mercy, but Virtual Pro.
Virtual Pro?
For sure, because it has like the sweet MMA mode, and you can be like Boss Rutan versus Hulk Hogan. It's absurd.
I'm always like the weird one for me. Like I'm a WrestleMania 2000 guy. Like that's my favorite one. That's the one I played super like all the time. But people are like,
story mode is way better for that than any other game.
I think it's so much fun. Like I used to play that story mode constantly, like endless for days and days and days, and I would just have fun and create people, and everybody had powerbomb and choke slams.
Well, you play through a season with the creator wrestler, and then you can start a new season off that one with your different one, and then the one you finished with before. Now he's in the main event.
He's in the main, exactly. He's got the belts, and you can start facing the people that you've had. So you can. I love that myself too. Yeah, and other people are like, I always choose the weird one in series. Like most people choose Mega Man 2, but I'm a Mega Man 3 guy when it comes to, you know what I mean? Like I'm always just like pushing buttons on people.
Yeah.
And all right, now, so you're clearly a huge fan of classic toys. What do you think of old school video games? Now, obviously, other than the wrestling games, like, are you a retro gamer or a gamer in general?
Oh yeah, I've got a little Raspberry Pi box that I play. Yeah, so
tons of emulated games.
What's that?
You got your emulated games like crazy.
Oh yeah, I love the emulator games. I have a Retron that plays like Nintendo cartridges.
I saw that actually under your TV because you had the Super Nintendo game, and then I think the Sega was in front of it. I think that's how that worked on that one. So
yeah. I play actually the retro box is the one that's not in here. It's actually in the bedroom. This TV is fully loaded with all the video game systems. I've even got like HDMI splitters and stuff. It's absurd. But I retro game. I'm in the middle of beating every level of Mario 2. Big fan of Mario 2.
Love Mario 2. Completely underrated, and people don't give it the time of day, but it's amazing.
Not even close. It's so good.
See, that's me though. I'm always the person who chooses, like, I push buttons, right? Because I'm like, no, Mario 2 was good. You're all wrong, right? Same with, like, The Adventures of Link. It was just as good as the first one. I don't care what people say. It was fun and different.
It was different. The side-scrolling was weird, but, I mean, it's still fun. I mean, I like the first one better, but I do enjoy the second.
Right? Like, sure. I don't think it's a bad game.
No, it's not a bad game.
No. All right, here's another fun one then. So for people who are planning to come to Vancouver for an independent show in the near future, what restaurants are near your must-eat list? Ooh, that's a good one.
Nice. These are questions that I like. So if you're seeing Glam Slam on near Commercial Drive, you got to hit Download Chicken, best fried chicken in town. It's also very close to East Van Brewing, which a lobster roll truck called Salty's Lobster Shack swings by, so you can eat that there sometimes. I always want to call it the wrong name. It's Harmony or Destiny. It's a Japanese or a Chinese dumpling restaurant that's really good. Peaceful Restaurant. God damn, there it is. It always comes to me. Peaceful's really good. See, I can talk about food for hours.
I'm okay with this. I also love food.
Yeah, I'm a big glutton. If I wasn't for wrestling, I'd be so fat. I mean, I'm the biggest I've ever been now, but I'm 40. I can be bigger.
There you go. Well, here's a quick question because of my days in Vancouver. Obviously, things have changed. But on the corner of Commercial and Broadway, is Uncle Fatty's Pizza still there?
Yeah.
Is not the so I've been telling people in Alberta who say they're like, there's good pizza in Alberta. I'm like, you guys have never had Uncle Fatty's Pizza, and you're all wrong. Can you attest for me that Uncle Fatty's Pizza is legitimately like the best thing ever?
Uncle Fatty's helped me quit smoking cigarettes. How about that? How about that little nugget for you?
Okay, that's just a complete random thing to say.
It is. So at the time, I was doing security at VCC on Broadway, right by it's like Clark and Clark, one block over.
Yeah, just down the road a little bit then.
So when I quit smoking, I was taking the SkyTrain because I was living in Surrey. And when I quit smoking, I was treating myself to a medium pizza every other night. If you call in advance, it was like a $6 pickup, and I would get pesto and double cheese and Uncle Fatty's. I would crush a medium pizza on the SkyTrain while I was quitting cigarettes.
Well,
so, the best pizza.
That's amazing. For some reason, you started sounding like all of a sudden you were coming through a tube. Can you just say something again?
What's that? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you speak a little bit closer to the microphone for a second? I think it's just doing a weird pickup.
Okay, how about now?
I guess it's going to be fine. It's just what it's going to be. You kind of cut out for some random reason.
Weird.
Yeah, just sound like you're towards the end of a random tunnel, but that's okay. So yeah, Uncle Fatty's Pizza helped you quit smoking. If that is not an advertisement for how good of a pizza they are, I can't explain to people how good Uncle Fatty's is. Like
Jay has a bunch more locations now. There's one in Central City. There's one in Kits, and I believe there's one on Main Street. So he's doing good. Like, people know that Uncle Fatty's is a place to be.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's amazing to hear that there's at least more than one location now, because I used to get off the SkyTrain when I went to college, and I was working on the end of East Hastings, right where East meets West Hastings, that's where my college was. So I would get off the SkyTrain at Commercial just to go get pizza, and then get back on the SkyTrain and head towards the Patterson SkyTrain, which is where I get off.
You can do the offload with the slice in 50 minutes if Uncle Fatty's isn't that busy.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's the thing about Uncle Fatty's, though. If you're going and you're waiting in line, you're going to be waiting in line for a while.
Well, yeah. Well, that commercial row is by far the smallest one. So the one in Central City in Surrey is pretty big. And I think the kids one's pretty good size too. Oh, and there's one downtown, like right on. I think it's on Smythe, Nelson, Helmickin, somewhere in there.
Awesome. Okay, what I'm actually going to do, I'm actually going to end the call, and then we're going to start it back up again, because I just don't want the sound to sound like this, so it's going to sound way better when we call you back. Is that okay?
So just on Twitter again?
Yeah, just disconnect from this and then reconnect, and then as soon as you're back.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to make sure you guys can hear everything as best as possible, because we're sitting here talking about Uncle Fatty's, and we definitely don't want to miss anything about Uncle Fatty's. Trust me about that. Oh, you just disconnected? All right, we're going to take a look at that. Fixed. I'm trying. I'm working hard on this. Hey, Artie, nice to see you in chat, buddy. I'm sorry I've been ignoring chat, but when I have my conversations, my interviews, I really like to make sure that I'm involved in the actual conversation. All right, it's connected to audio. Can you say something?
Hello.
Oh, we're back to normal.
We're back. It's going to be about pizza.
It's where it's about to be about pizza about now, but yeah. So Uncle Fatty's Pizza, best pizza legitimately in the world. When I go up, so I'm actually going up for one of the shows here in the next little bit. I'm going to be coming up to the Nat Bailey show. I believe it's on August 20th.
Yes.
And I can't tell you how excited I am. I saw the advertisement for the Nat Bailey show. You did fucking hilarious work in that. Great job.
Thank you.
Like in terms of committing, right? Like you are singing and you looked absolutely inebriated and you look like you're having a great time. Hope it was real too, by the way, because that looked like a fun day. Maybe.
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
That's the mystery of wrestling. Is he drunk or is he just being a wacky weirdo? Who knows?
Is he being Uncle Daddy? No, but with that, like, have you ever wrestled in a baseball stadium before? Because that's got to be like a cool thing.
I have not, and I have been daydreaming about wrestling at Nat Bailey Stadium since I started wrestling. I'm a big, like I said earlier, big WCW guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when the Horsemen landed in a helicopter in that baseball stadium at whatever Starrcade that was, 88 or 89, I was like, yeah, I want to wrestle at Nat Bailey Stadium for sure. And NEW's making it happen, which is pretty amazing because I never thought in a million years it would happen.
They're doing some amazing work, NEW and WrestleCore, especially coming out of the pandemic. I gotta say, the amount of advertising and like the way they market themselves, they are definitely making themselves stand out. Just like I'm noticing it very clearly from Calgary, right? Like, you know what I mean?
That's awesome. Those are the two that I like that I work for. There's also so I'm not getting out as much as I used to. Mm-hmm. We talked earlier. There's so much wrestling in BC now. And B, I'm a little beat up now, so I'm working at NEW and WrestleCore. But Glam Slam is a wicked promotion that you don't want to sleep on. It's a small independent venue. I think they have like 300, but it's half wrestling, half burlesque.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
I'm not often Uncle Daddy there. What I like about that place is they give us like they do a lot of like topical matches. So like I've been corporate America, and I've been a dentist, and I've been a police officer. On these as a wrestling match, and I really enjoy that because it gets keeps you thinking fresh.
Right, you try new moves out that make more sense with the person as opposed, you know what I mean, right? Like there's always some new stuff.
Well, it puts me in a different headspace. Like I wouldn't think of dentist jokes for Uncle Daddy, but and now I'm like spitting out chiclets in this match. I'm like, ooh, that's funny. Maybe I could do that as Uncle Daddy later on, right? And then there's another promotion starting up at I think in September called Boom Wrestling, which is pretty exciting as well. Those are the four I'm working for. I don't know how we got on this. This definitely wasn't the question you asked me, but...
Oh, that's totally fine. We asked tons of different questions here. This one is going to be a really random question that we legitimately ask everybody. But what inspiration has the all-time classic movie Ready to Rumble featuring Sting had on your career?
I'm a big Sal Bandini guy. Remember rule number one? Apply pressure until your cartilage snap or they crap in their pants. Big fan of that guy. I love Ready to Rumble. It gets shit on and it doesn't deserve as much hate. I mean, it's bad. Let's be honest. It's still a wrestling movie and that's fun. And I mean, I'll watch there's some stinkers out there, but like that era is not bad. Ever seen the wrestling movie Body Slam?
I don't think I have. No.
Ooh, you should. It stars the guy who played Face in A-Team,
okay,
Roddy Piper as Quick Rick Roberts, and then the Tongan Kid as Tonga Tom, because I guess they couldn't think of anything else. And
this is starting to sound familiar all of a sudden.
they started this half rock and roll, half wrestling promotion, and then like the Brainbusters actually not Brainbusters. The Powers of Pain actually crippled them because wrestling's a shoot this movie. Great, terrible wrestling movie. I recommend that one too. If you like Ready to Rumble, you'll like Body Slam.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes terrible movies are the best things in the world, right? Like you can almost appreciate how bad they are, so they become art forms. The Room, Birdemic, The Lost Skeleton of Cadavra, legitimately like the funniest movies ever.
I don't know that one. I know The Room though. I do know The Room.
The Room is a classic. That's like the best worst movie ever. That's right up there, the best of the worst.
You watch it alone though. You watch it alone, you're like, what the fuck am I doing? But if you're with friends having a wobbly pop or two or a toot on something, then it's a pretty good time. It's
a drinking game. Like just say like every time you say I don't love him anymore or something, you're just gonna get sloshed by the end of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so if you were to put on a Tony Baroni branded show, Zicky Dow's Outlandish Paradise or Joey Janela's Spring Bake Style, what would you call it?
Ooh, I never thought of that. Well, let's see. Maybe like I do my best work in the afternoon, so I do like a matinee. So maybe Tony Baroni's Boozy Brunch. Maybe.
There you go. I like that. Like an 11 to 3:30 show.
Yeah. And then you get mimosas after.
I'm in my 30s. That sounds like a perfect show to me. I'm not gonna lie. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. No, I want to be like. First of all, if you put me on your show, put me first, right? I'm 40. I got to be up before 9, or I'm sleepy. Last Commodore show, they put 3 40-year-olds in like the semi main spot. Like, what are you doing? It's way past my bedtime.
Yeah, we're all sleepy. We're all gonna go there and do a terrible job. I like that. The Boozy Brunch, Tony Baroni's Boozy or Uncle Daddy's Boozy Brunch. That's a great name for a show. I don't know. Something like that. Hey, I liked it. What about this? Here's the fun. What's your favorite Doritos flavor?
My favorite Doritos flavor was when they were doing the collisions.
Okay.
And it was buffalo wing and blue cheese in the same bag.
That was like legitimately one of the only Doritos I've ever actually liked. I wasn't a big Doritos guy, but that one was amazing.
And if not that, then Cool Ranch. But first is those collisions. Those were killer.
Now, I have a question that's actually come up a couple of times on this interview, and it's a bit of a hot topic. Ketchup chips, yay or nay?
I'm okay with them. Yeah. They're not my favorite, but I'm also a glutton, so like there's nothing there.
You're like, yeah, they're there. I'm eating them still, so.
Like I hate cinnamon hearts, but if that's what's there, I'm gonna eat them.
Oh, here's a fun one then. So, which wrestler are you going to try to throw a beanball at the Nat Bailey Stadium at? Like, which one are you going to try to hit?
I mean, I would assume Alan Jepson because he's the baseball player. That'd be the ironic.
You're just totally going to beam him?
Yeah, why not?
We'll get it on camera, everybody.
Right? He's a baseball player. It's his thing.
Absolutely. He's going to get it. Like, where are you going to try to hit him? Like, right in the thigh or something? Just so he's like, just like limps off kind of thing?
Ass cheek.
Right in the ass cheek.
Right from behind. You're going to see it coming.
Do you have your match for the Nat Bailey state or like that show already set up? Like, do you know who you're wrestling or what's going on?
I don't think I do.
Oh, well, we'll have a lot of fun. I can't wait for it personally, right? Because like I said, I'm going to be there. I'm going to have so many drinks and hot dogs. It's going to be a great show. And I used to live in Burnaby, so it's not even too far from where I used to live kind of a thing. I can just get back on the SkyTrain, go get some Uncle Fatties, and then... Oh, that'll be a good day. So who is one of the most underrated, under-heralded wrestlers that you've worked with or trained that you think more people need to pay attention to?
Ooh, see, now this is a tough one because I don't leave anybody out because like the dojo's got some real good guys these days. Like everyone knows Travis is wicked and SOE is on. They're definitely killing it right now and they're getting pretty known. Reloaded's awesome. Jackie Lee of Reloaded has been on absolute fucking fire these days.
That's the one who wrestled MRB recently, right? Like he wrestled MRB at a show recently.
I believe so. It's hard to. So but I feel like in the last few months, Jackie's like up to the level. He's just so buttery smooth out there. And the Rivers is doing real. It's hard. Like especially like you're asking like especially we're talking about like our students like, which one's your favorite kid?
Yeah, it's probably one of your students who asked the question because they're just waiting for their call out. Right?
Yeah, waiting to get pat on the head. I'm not surprised. I'm not the best at that part. I need to. Yeah, it's more. I'm more of a. If you don't hear about it, you're doing fine. Coach, I should probably get better positive critiques.
Oh, it's just a fun one then. So you were my first BC interview that I've done. Obviously, you're a great person to break in with because you know a lot about the scene. Who would you recommend be the second interview that I do for a BC?
If you can snag Artie, he's been around. Oh, Artie has been around for quite a while and knows what's going on. Bishop is a good guy to talk to because he taught me a lot when I broke in. Up and down the roads, brother, going to Portland and back. No, any of the Lions Gate Dojo coaches, so Nicole Matthews, Billy Swade. Kat Power would be an interesting one because she's lived both and wrestled in both Ontario and BC, so she's seen both ends of Canadian wrestling. Who else is good for? You talking like who's been Ravenous Randy again? He started in Calgary and he's been in BC, so he's seen a lot of Canadian wrestling. Yeah, and then for the younger guys like the Travises, the Reloadeds, those kinds of guys.
Well, I know for a fact Artie is in chat right now, so Artie, I'm gonna message you. We've got the okay from Tony Baroni. Whether or not you say you want to do it in chat, I'm sending you a message. All right. Well, this has been an absolutely fantastic interview, man. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Like, legitimately had a blast. This was so much fun. If you could leave people with, like, any type of advice, like what it's like to be a wrestler, like people who want to get into the business, what would you say to somebody?
Oh, well, if you want to get into the business, it's a commitment. Like, you can't half-ass it. You gotta go all the way in. If you can't train, once a month, twice a month, and expect to be a good wrestler, right? Like, you gotta put your time in. You gotta bust your ass, and you're gonna be hurt. You'll be hurting, but it's definitely worth it. And advice, I would say, don't get an ego. We're all in the same indie, so no one's really better than you. Should always strive to be better, right? Like we talked earlier about how wrestling is all these different things. Try and get good at all of them, right? Don't just pigeonhole yourself to be the indie style guy or the character guy or the hardcore guy. Get good at all of it, because then you're useful to every promotion, right? Like, they might not want indie guy in trunks, but if you can give them a submission guy or what was it? Kicky Mix Submissions, as I called Nicole not that long ago.
Submissions.
Kicky Mix Submissions. You're out there doing kicky submissions. Get good at everything because you love wrestling, so you should try and at least understand as many parts of it. And again, I'm rambling, but I've done some lucha stuff at school. You'll never see me do it in matches, but like I've dabbled in it, right? You should be familiar with as much as you can, because if you love wrestling, you should immerse yourself in it. But also don't make sure you have time for other things in life too.
There you go. A nice balance of things, right?
That was nonsense.
It was fun. It was like the answer of a person in their like 40s and 30s, right? They're like, do everything and enjoy it, all of it.
Yes. Yeah, that's the short version. Do everything, enjoy it, taking those moments, right? But work hard. Like, wrestling is 100% what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So if you want to do something, bust your ass. And if you want to just kind of dabble in it, that's cool too, right? But, try and help your fellow wrestlers and just be cool. Number one, just be cool.
Just don't be a dick, right?
Don't be a dick. Be cool. Don't be an asshole, man. Like, what I never understood was we both love wrestling, so let's fight about it. Like, what?
What is that expression? Like, when you put yourself over, all you're doing is putting yourself above everybody else, but a rising tide raises all boats, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, you better tell a story, right? Don't put yourself at the top of the ship, right? Make sure everybody's floating.
Yeah, right. I'd rather elevate people than go on Twitter and say how good I am.
Right. Unless, of course, that's your character, right?
I have the self-deprecating humor though. Like, praise makes me uncomfortable. I'm much more comfortable making fun of myself and getting ripped on. But
I 100% am the same way. I mean, when I complimented you today, you're like, "Oh no, please stop now."
No, I'm a trash person. That's
all right, buddy. Well, dude, thank you so much for joining me here today. Do you want to give some plugs where everybody can join you or see you and everything like that?
Yeah. So follow me on my Instagram, Uncle Daddy Tony Baroni. Follow me on Twitter, Tony Baroni 13. Follow Lions Gate Dojo on Twitter and on Instagram. Follow Nation Extreme Wrestling on Instagram and Twitter. Follow WrestleCore on Instagram and Twitter. Follow Glam Slam TV on Instagram. And I'm sure Boom Wrestling will have have something to follow VIPW on Twitter, Instagram, follow it 365, follow all the BC wrestling, because there's some good stuff happening out here that maybe you don't know about, and you might find some cool wrestlers out this way.
Absolutely, dude. Thank you again
I really need to do this again. I really feel like we barely talked about anything. We talked about pizza, and all of a sudden the hour was gone.
So that's the good thing about me, is that at the end of the day, I'm going to infect your mind. You're going to be like, I got to do another Wrestlesode now, right? So when I come knocking again, you'll be like, yes, now I know what I want to talk about. Uncle Fatty's got another franchise.
Yeah, right?
All right, buddy. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope you have yourself a wonderful night. And this was a really fun chat and really educational as well. I can't wait to do this again.
Well, I'm sorry that you'll probably get terrible ratings after this because I was on, but I had a blast.
Yeah, we hit up to 30 live viewers at one point, so I think we're doing pretty good. Yeah.
Is that good? I have no
That's
idea.
really good, man. That's a really good number. Don't you worry about that. That's a good one to have, especially on a place like Twitch and Canadian independent wrestling. So this is fantastic.
Awesome.
Perfect. All right, buddy. Well, you have yourself a wonderful night, and I will chat with you soon, okay?
You betcha.
All right. Bye-bye. A big thank you once again to Tony for joining me here today. It was such a fun chat, and I am so absolutely incredibly jealous of that man's action figure collection. I legitimately am. His stories are amazing. He's such a wonderful guy, and I really hope that all of you were able to enjoy today as much as I did, because I absolutely loved it. Remember, tonight, if you are watching this over at twitch.tv/JupiterVision, we will be interviewing the Haida Heartthrob, Adam Ryder, live at 8 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Pacific, if that's where you are, because that's where he is, just so make sure everybody knows. Also, a big thank you, of course, to our sponsors. Backbreaker Video has just updated themselves and are doing some amazing stuff. You guys should go check them out, uploading some really cool things over there and some really cool things happening with Backbreaker Video that I can't give everything out to. RK Athletics, of course, as well as the Canadian Wrestling Archive. Like, we've done so well on the Canadian Wrestling Archive. RK Athletics, I know Rich just celebrated his birthday, so if any of you guys want to go say happy belated birthday to Rich, make sure you go do that. Anyways, that's it for me here today. I hope you have yourself a wonderful day. Remember to hit subscribe and the like button and everything, because you know that stuff that happens, it actually does matter. So please do so. Have yourself a wonderful day. Bye.